Welcome back to Titletown Talk. It's your man, Jackson Tolliver, back with you as always for some Boston sports talk. And we are in, officially, I would say now, the most exciting period of the year for Boston sports because we have baseball underway and the Celtics and Bruins are just about to start their playoff runs, which we hope will be long and end in trophies for both teams and duck boat parades and just joy across the whole city. Imagine if we could get 2 championships this year. I think it's possible. I think it might happen, so let's get into it. We're going to start off with the Bruins because the Celtics, we don't know who they're playing in the first round yet. And I want to go over this first series that we're going to get, which is Bruins versus Toronto Maple Leafs. The Bruins didn't look good these last 2 games. To me, it doesn't feel like talking about in much depth. They lost to the Senators. They lost to the Capitals, which ended up giving them a playoff spot. Offense just couldn't really get going. The defense was fine, I guess, in the Capitals game. They only gave up 2 goals in that one, and I believe it was only 3 goals in the Ottawa game. But the offense just couldn't get going. And I mean, I say only 3 goals, and like that's still bad. It just wasn't disastrous from the team. But you have to wonder if I don't think that the Bruins lost those games on purpose. But I feel like the energy of the players wasn't there, knowing that the President's Cup was probably out of reach at this point. They weren't going to get the 1 seed. And would you rather play the Lightning, who they would have played if they remained the 2nd seed, or would you rather drop down and play the Maple Leafs? I would certainly rather play the Maple Leafs. I think the Bruins would rather play the Maple Leafs. So is there a possibility that they didn't lose those games on purpose, but had less motivation to win those games and try in those games, hopefully? Or this team is really struggling and we should be very concerned for the playoffs. I prefer to believe that it's the first option and that they didn't have that motivation, that extra hustle, because deep down they actually wanted to be the 3rd seed more so that they'd have to play Toronto first round. So now here we are preparing to face Toronto and Austin Matthews, the top NHL goal scorer this season. This will be a tough matchup. The Lightning would have been tougher, but this is going to be tough. It's going to be tough to contain Matthews. The Leafs have a very good offense. This is a historic rivalry that ended in 3 Game 7s over the 2010s. This is not going to be easy by any means. When these 2 teams meet in the playoffs, it's usually a very, very good series. The Bruins have had the better of the Leafs in recent years. I believe they won the last 4. But you never know. It's going to be a good series, so it could go either way. I'm still going to take the Bruins, but there's a lot of factors at play here. Now, the series is going to kick off on Saturday night at 8 p.m., Game 1 in Boston. Obviously, Boston is the 3rd seed. Toronto is the 6th seed. They're going to have the home court advantage throughout the series. Like I said, Austin Matthews, that's going to be the one that you have to worry about, right? He's going to be making a huge impact in this series. He is, you could argue, the best player in the series. He probably is. He definitely is this season. So he's going to be tough to contain. But once you go beyond Matthews, you have Tyler Bertuzzi, who was on the Bruins roster last year in that what could have been playoff run where they lost first round to the Florida Panthers. He'll be looking for a revenge series. But if you go beyond those 2, the depth falls off compared to where the Bruins are, I believe. Bruins, obviously, they're going to be looking to Pastrnak, DeBrusk, Marchand, Coyle, McAvoy, right? That's their core 5. And they have some pretty good pieces in terms of depth that I think that the Leafs don't have. Personally, I think the Bruins' depth is better than the Leafs. The goaltending rather, is a lot better on the Bruins side. We don't know what exactly they're going to be doing yet, whether it's going to be Ullmark starting first game, Swayman starting first game. I would lean towards and prefer Ullmark starting first game. And following that, we don't know if they're going to be doing a rotation. Is it going to be either alternating 1 and 1? Is it going to be based off form? If I see Ullmark post a shutout in the first game, I, for one, want him to be playing again in the second game, right? So I would rather that they go based off performance. Swayman's performances, for me, recently have been slightly iffy. I think he's let in some shots that he should have saved. And Ullmark, to me, has been the better goalie this year, I think. And that's just based off the eye test. Based off the games that I've watched, which is just about all of them. I think Ullmark has come up bigger for the Bruins this season than Swayman has. So I hope that they ride Ullmark if he gets the hot hand. And if he is the one that's performing better, I hope that they go with him and not just blindly switch between games. That's not to say that Swayman's a bad goalie. I think he's also good, and he also has had moments this year where you really think he's, an elite goalie. Both of them have had those moments throughout this year. They've both stepped up. Last year, obviously, Ullmark played through the entire first round until the bitter end because he wasn't playing well. Ullmark is one of the reasons why the Bruins lost the series last year, but he was hurt. He obviously wasn't himself throughout that series, and it cost the Bruins, ultimately, amongst other factors. We're not going to pin all the blame on Ullmark. Swayman did start in that Game 7, if my memory serves me correctly. But this year, I would hope that they end up going with the guy who's doing better. And to me, I anticipate that being Ullmark, because I think that he obviously has more experience than Swayman. I think he's been better this year. So we'll see how it shapes out, but I hope they go with Ullmark in the first game and stick with him if he does well. Here's the thing with the Bruins. I think that they're also better. I think their special teams is better. I think that they're better at killing power plays. I think that it's tough with defense because the defense has been so inconsistent this year. But I would give the edge to the Bruins. The only thing I wouldn't give them is the best player edge because Austin Matthews is going to be the best player on the ice. So it could go either way, realistically. I'm not saying this is going to be an easy series for the Bruins whatsoever, but I do think that they can take it and win it in 7. Just because of the experience, the goaltending, their ability to kill off the power play. I would take the Bruins to win this series. Now, if they don't win this series and they lose first round, I anticipate Jim Montgomery gets fired. Marchand might be done. So there's going to be some significant changes to this roster if this series doesn't go the way that it's supposed to. So this is a very, very big series. This is a bigger series than the last year's first round for sure because there's more at stake, albeit last year's first round was also pretty big because Bergeron was retiring, Krejci was retiring, and that would have been a great opportunity to win a Stanley Cup. But this year you have another opportunity in front of you to win a Stanley Cup. I know the team has been inconsistent this year. They've looked really good at some points and really bad at other points, but you're just going to have to dial in, and you're going to have to, really focus each round, each game, each period, each possession, and, make sure you take care of the puck. You're going to have to eliminate turnovers. That's been such a huge problem for the Bruins this year. You're going to have to, cut back on your turnovers. You're going to have to not play from behind because that's when things have gone bad for the Bruins. I feel like their confidence has gotten a little shaky when they've had to play from behind this year. You have to control the puck well. Like I said, control the tempo of the game. Control the pace, especially in these home games where the crowd's going to be behind you. You have that advantage. Use it. And, just play harder. That's really what it comes down to. You have to just play harder. The Leafs are going to be motivated. We all know the struggles that they've had in the playoffs these last few years. And they're going to be motivated to actually make noise and beat, a fellow member of the original 6 in the NHL, which is the Bruins. So don't take them lightly. I hope that they don't take them lightly. And just lock in and grind. That's what you got to do. Lock in and grind. So, like I said, Bruins will start on Saturday. I believe that they will win this game in 7. It just seems like destiny. It seems like fate because these teams always go to 7. It's such a historic rivalry. I think both teams have what it takes. They both have players, who have big names and have made huge impacts this year. So, go Bruins. I think they'll win in 7. I'm a little bit uncertain just because of the history of this matchup and the magnitude of it and the way that they've looked to end out the season was not good to me. But like I said, hopefully, fingers crossed, they just didn't have that motivation because they didn't want to play Tampa. Go Bruins. And alongside them in TD Garden, obviously not on the same night, so not alongside them, but simultaneously, the Celtics will be battling for banner 18. This one's going to start on Monday. They will either be playing the Miami Heat or the Chicago Bulls, depending on how tomorrow night's game goes. And I came on here last time, and I said that I would rather have the Heat and the 76ers. I got a lot of hate for this. I posted a clip on Instagram and TikTok. A lot of people disagreed with me because Miami's owned the Celtics. Allegedly, they've beaten them twice in the past 4 years, which I guess is owning the Celtics when you have a team that has won so consistently in the playoffs besides the finals. Yes, I guess they've owned the Celtics. Let's not talk about the Celtics owning literally every other team in the East pretty much for the past, for the entire Tatum Brown era even, because they had a good run before Tatum got there. I digress. Miami looked awful last night. Philly did as well. And now we have the news that Jimmy Butler is going to be missing a few weeks with an MCL sprain that he suffered in that game against Philly. So now I think, I was going to come on here today before last night's game and say that the first round is going to be the Celtics' most difficult round of the playoffs, regardless if it was Philly or Miami. Because with Philly, you have Embiid. They were a top 3 team before he went down. I know he's not 100%, but the Sixers were doing so well when he came back. And for Miami, it's the obvious. The Celtics have fallen short against Miami in 2 Eastern Conference Finals over the last 4 years. Playoff Jimmy is a real thing. Scary stuff. Spoelstra's a great coach, better than Mazzulla, so on and so forth. But now there's no Jimmy Butler. And that changes the whole equation. Without Jimmy Butler, I don't think the Heat beat the Celtics once in a 7-game series. I think it's a sweep. I'll go even further and say, I don't think Miami beats Chicago tomorrow night. Chicago looked really good. They've looked fine. They've decent to close out the season. So I think the Celtics will play Chicago round 1 now, because I don't think the Heat can do it without Jimmy. I just don't. Tyler Hero's going to win you a game against, DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic, Kobe White, who's looking great, Ayo Dosunmu, who's looking really good, Andre Drummond. The Bulls actually have a decent roster, top to bottom. I don't think Billy Donovan's a good fit there, and it sucks that they don't have Zach LaVine, but if you look top to bottom, their roster's fine, and they've performed well enough to be here. They beat Atlanta, who's also performed well enough to be here, ended their season. I think Chicago wins this game tomorrow night. And I think the Celtics will have Chicago round 1, which is, not for nothing, the Celtics swept Chicago this year, including in the play-in tournament when they needed to win by 20-something to make the playoffs for the play-in tournament. They did that. I think the Celtics will have their way with this team. 4 games, 5 games maybe, if Chicago can steal one at home. And then I look to the second round, and I see Cleveland or Orlando. Now, I said this on Sunday. This is an easy matchup for the Celtics, right? That's easy. Celtics lost 1 game to the Magic and 1 game to the Cavs this season. Cavs haven't looked good recently. They lost to the Hornets in their last game of the regular season. The Magic are too young, so that's easy. Then you go to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks are injured. No Julius Randle. The Bucks are somewhat injured. We don't know what's going to happen with Giannis. And the Sixers have a Embiid who does not look himself at all. And then you have the Pacers. The Celtics, I would take to beat any of these 4 teams easily. The Knicks I could see giving a little bit of trouble just because Jalen Brunson has been so good. And the Bucks are the Bucks. If Giannis ends up coming back fully healthy, the Bucks have had the Celtics number at home. So those could be difficult series. But what I'm trying to say is, and what I'm getting at, is this seems like the easiest path to the finals that you could have imagined before this season, heading into this season. You either get in the first round the Heat without Jimmy Butler or the Bulls without Zach LaVine. In the second round, you either get the Cavs, who have been inconsistent all year and sucked to end the season, or the Magic, who have 0 playoff minutes on their roster, besides Joe Ingles. Just 0 experience. Then the Eastern Conference Finals, you either get Milwaukee with a Giannis who isn't 100%, who have looked bad this season with Doc Rivers coaching. You either get Philly with a hurt Embiid, who is known for choking in the second round, so I just don't think that's going to happen. You could get New York with no Julius Randle, or you could get Indiana with no playoff experience. This is an easy path to the finals, and the Celtics have absolutely no excuse to not come out of the East. None. Last night, what happened last night with Jimmy Butler getting hurt changes everything. Everything. All these injuries that the Celtics have now stacked against them. Stacked for them, rather, because other teams have all these injuries. This should be a cakewalk to the finals. The Celtics shouldn't lose more than 2 games across all these rounds. They should have at least 1 sweep and 2 gentlemen sweeps. It should be that easy for them. If it was a fully healthy Heat team, I could see it going to 7 or 6. If it was Philadelphia and Embiid wasn't worn out from the playoffs yet, I could see that going to 5 or 6, maybe 7, if Tyrese Maxey goes God mode. But now you have either Chicago or Miami without Jimmy Butler. This should be easy. Easy. And anything short of the finals this year is an absolute failure, and you should look yourselves in the mirror as the Celtics front office. Have a hard look on Joe Mazzulla. Have a hard look on Tatum, depending on how he plays. If, he carries and everybody else lets him down, that's a different thing. If Tatum goes in and burns out this playoffs, how can you justify giving him a supermax? How can you? Because, yes, he's good. He's great. I love Jason Tatum. I'm one of the biggest Jason Tatum fans in the world. But if he goes in there and craps his pants in these playoffs, can you justify giving him that money when this team is so hyped up? And I'm getting ahead of myself for the sake of conversation and for the sake of, speculation. But with this competition, if Tatum goes in there, let's say he absolutely stinks up the court against Chicago and the Celtics somehow lose that game, that series. No, you don't give him that supermax. You move on. It's time. Or you move on from Mazzulla or whatever it is. I'm just saying. It is that important. And the Celtics have so much pressure, so much more than ever before because of how good they were in the regular season, how good this team is on paper. Barring any injuries, they should make the finals and they should win it. It is that simple. They should win a chip this year or it's a failure. And it is really stacking up that way more and more as these injuries mount up for other teams. So yeah, I'm going to take Chicago tomorrow night. That's what I think is going to be the first round matchup starting on Sunday at 1 p.m. on ABC, I believe, ESPN. That's what I think it's going to be. I'm dropping that knowledge for you right now. And if not, it's Miami with no Jimmy Butler. Another easy matchup. Celtics should cruise. If they don't, I'm going to be frustrated. Let's move on because I've harped on this enough. Let's go into the Red Sox. They are 1-2 against the Guardians this series. Last time I checked, they were losing today as well. It's going on right now. Yep, 5-1. I'm not even going to watch this one. I am just so frustrated with this Red Sox team. I saw a tweet today from Jared Carabas, however you say it, saying that the Red Sox had a chance to be contenders this season if everything went right. And so far, 90% of things have went wrong. Couldn't be more accurate. Trevor Story comes in looking like a gold glover, one of the best defenders on the team. Goes down with a torn, I don't even remember what the bone was, a blown out shoulder, and is done. Nick Pivetta, hurt. Rafael Devers, hurt. Tyler O'Neill, who leads the league in home runs, hurt. Injury after injury after injury, and you are left with a skeleton of a team. You have to have Bernardino start the game for you today against Cleveland, which has one of the best offenses in the MLB on paper. Besides the elite ones like New York and Atlanta and Los Angeles. They should still have a very good offense. And you just can't even field a roster of major league players. You have David Hamilton David Hamilton playing. I don't think he's shortstop anymore. I think they moved Rafaela to shortstop, which is a move I like, by the way. But you have David Hamilton. You have Wilyer Abreu. Who else are they even fielding now? Pablo Reyes is fine, I guess. But you have these guys out here that should not be batting at a major league level. Emmanuel Valdez, another one. I think he bats like a 1.50 or something. Not good. This is not good. This is disgusting. John Henry, this is disgusting. This is clearly a team that had potential, that has young guys like Tristan Casas, great. Tyler O'Neill looks great. Devers, great. You should have given them more pieces. You should have given this team an Alex Cora. Poor Alex Cora. I actually feel bad for him now. Because and it's gotten to that point. I think he's mismanaged some games this year so far. But I feel bad for him because of the situation that John Henry has put him in. He's running out of options. And he is the scapegoat, frankly. I think Chaim Bloom was the scapegoat last year. And now it's going to be Alex Cora. He's going to get fired at some point because of this. Embarrassing loss on Marathon Monday on what should have been a day of celebration, and was just a day of celebration. Don't get me wrong. The Red Sox being awful didn't stop that. They lost 7-0 to Cleveland. The collision between Rafael Devers and Tyler O'Neill felt like a microcosm of the season that the Red Sox have had so far. Just miscommunications on defense, blunders. It was just a microcosm of the season so far, I thought. And it actually injured Tyler O'Neill pretty bad. Devers is now also injured. He was injured the next day. I don't even know. Like, between if Devers is forced to be injured long term, to miss a lot of time, like, who do you miss more, him or Trevor Story? Because Trevor Story was looking like the best defender by far at the most important defensive position, shortstop. And he was batting well too. I think he was just finding his groove. Who do you even miss more? Because Rafi has been awful on defense this year. Terrible. And he hasn't been as good hitting-wise as like Tyler O'Neill has. I mean, barely anybody in the MLB has been as good hitting-wise as Tyler O'Neill has. And you've seen the result of that without Tyler O'Neill from the offense this week. It hasn't looked good. To be fair, they went to extra innings on the second night of the matchup. Lost, as you would expect from an extra innings game, because the Red Sox bullpen just can't keep up with other major league teams, frankly. They just can't. And the offense, like, the bench just runs out because there's not enough physical players. Like the game last week where Reese McGuire got tossed, and you already have Connor Wong playing second base, I believe it was. It's like, okay, what do we do now? Send Alex Cora out there to play catcher? Like, that's what it's come down to. Because, like, there's just not enough talent they feel comfortable with to be ready to hit. That's the point we're at. It is so infuriating to see what is supposed to be one of baseball's best teams completely fall apart and just be at this point. And this isn't even the worst it's going to get. Believe it or not, it's going to get worse because more injuries are going to happen. The Red Sox still are floating around 500. Like, they're not even last in the AL East. They're going to get there. Don't worry. They will. It feels like we are in, like, August already or September, where the Red Sox have just, like, everyone's just given up on them. And it's April 18th. This is depressing. This is a sad state. If you look at pictures of Fenway Park, there are so many empty seats, way more than there should be. And it all goes back to you didn't want to pay Mookie long term. You had Xander in your lap, and you let both of them go. You had JD. I mean, that team was so close to a World Series in 2021. So close. So close. And you blew it up. You blew it up. And John Henry, you blew it. You have blown this team. And you are currently wasting the potential of some of these young players. It's a shame, and I don't even feel like talking about, their win. It was a great game from Tanner Houck. Looks like the best pitcher that the Red Sox have right now, especially with Garrett Whitlock and Nick Pivetta now on the IL. I don't even know if Whitlock's on the IL yet. I know he left the game with an injury. Good game from Houck. Connor Wong has a hot bat right now. Hit a homer. The series is closing right now. They're losing. It's going to be a 1-3 loss of the series to Cleveland. And now they have Pittsburgh, who look really good this season. On the road. Back on the road. Then you have Cleveland on the road. Yeah, those won't be easy series whatsoever. I could see the Red Sox getting swept in both, unfortunately, and that's just the point that we're at now. I wish it wasn't. I wish I had more faith in this baseball team, but I just don't. So that's that. I'm getting so depressed talking about the Red Sox. I have to talk about them all summer. And you have to listen to them all summer. Because there's nothing else going on. So enjoy that. I'll be talking a lot about Celtics Summer League. I'll be going really, really in depth with it. And the Revs, I guess, also. The Revs are awesome. The Revs are great. You know what? Let's just move on to the Revolution. Let's go there. If you think the Red Sox are bad, The Revolution are going to Toronto this weekend, where I don't think they will even score a goal. DeJuan Jones, probably one of their best players, out for at least a month. And now they have to contain Lorenzo Insigne, who scored a goal on you in your home opener when Toronto came. You can read if you're watching the video on YouTube, you can read my face here for how I feel about this. It's not going to be good. Counting down the days till Porter is out as the manager of the Revolution. And unfortunately, I'm counting down the days till Carles Hill wants out, even though he just signed an extension. Counting down the days till Noel Buck gets scooped up by a European team and leaves the Revolution. Counting down the days till Esmir Bayraktarovic, same thing happens. And I am longing for the days this time a year ago when the Revolution were fighting for first in the East. And Georgi Petrovic, was the best goalkeeper in the MLS. Besides maybe Roman Berkey. You can make that argument. Yeah. We are far from those days. Bruce Arena getting canned, man. I said it in the last episode. That's the worst thing that's happened to this franchise in a very long time. Anyway, I give them no chance to win this weekend. It would be a pleasant surprise if they could start being good miraculously. Maybe now that the CONCACAF Champions Cup is over, after that embarrassment against Club America where they lost like 9-2 on aggregate, maybe there's a chance that they can put more focus into the MLS, put more focus into the domestic league, and, be good, conserve their energy. Maybe Porter's tactics will start to work and they'll get acclimated to a new system. Maybe they'll learn how to pass in the final third of the field. Maybe. But I don't see it right now. I see Carles Hill carrying the team on his back, scraping together goals, just begging his teammates to be good. And them always falling short. I assume Ryan Spalding will pick up at left back where DeJuan Jones left. I don't hate Ryan Spalding. I think he's fine. So this isn't like the worst position to lose one of your guys because I think the Revs do have some decent depth at fullback. I don't know who will be back first, Brandon Bye or DeJuan Jones, because Brandon Bye is still recovering from that ACL last season. I assume DeJuan Jones will be back first, but hopefully Brandon Bye could be back in a couple of months. But yeah, folks, if you don't watch it, I don't blame you, because Bruins playoffs will be on. Let's go. Bruins playoffs, Celtics playoffs, two teams that are actually good. That is what we want to see. Sorry about how this episode got kind of depressing today when I was talking about the Red Sox and the Revs. It is just very depressing to be a fan of those two teams right now. But it is playoff season starting this weekend. The next time I record, I am hoping the Celtics and the Bruins will be 1-0 up in their first round series. That will be on Sunday night I'll be recording, so hopefully I have good news to bring, and maybe even a Revolution win and a Red Sox win. Who knows? I'm Jackson Tolliver. Thanks so much, as always, for tuning in to Titletown Talk. I will see you on Thursday. Lock in, folks. It's playoff time.